And just to let everyone joining us coming in or either viewing it on Facebook on our live stream, you are here with the Area Agency on Aging 1B and the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan for our Conversations for Caregiver webinar. Today, the topic will be effective communication strategies for someone with Alzheimer's disease. We'll be getting started in just a couple minutes. We are so glad that we have so many people joining us today. It's wonderful. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. And we're excited to be here and have all this good information to share with you today. And we just welcome you. And if you are on social media, on Facebook, please share this. Share this with your friends. As my minister says on Sunday, start a watch party. Let everybody come on in and join so that we can make sure that we get lots of participation and share this information that will be very useful to someone who either is caring for an older adult who may be battling with Alzheimer's or dementia, or who may know someone. So this will be some good information that we're going to give to you today with the Alzheimer's Association. We have a wonderful speaker, and we're going to just give maybe another 2 minutes, and we'll be ready to go ahead and get started with our program today. Thank you. All righty, everyone. I have it as noon on the dot, so we are going to go ahead and get started. And again, welcome on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging 1B to our third installment and our final installment in our Conversations for Caregiver webinar series that we started back actually in November, if you really want to be truthful about it, when we had our caregiver to caregiver panel discussion during National Family Caregiver Month. And then in January, we extended it out to do a series on informational webinars that will be beneficial to family caregivers to give them some good information on different topics. And we started with hospice in January. Then we went to elder care coordination in February. And today we're going to end this series with the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan, who will be bringing us a presentation on effective communication strategies for someone with Alzheimer's disease. So we're very excited to have our great community partner with us today, the Alzheimer's Association, and our wonderful speaker, Jim, who will be coming before us very shortly. But before we get into the context of our presentation today, just wanted to give everyone some information on the Area Agency on Aging. So hopefully, if you haven't received an email from me or you've seen me somewhere else, you don't know anything about us, want to just give some quick information. The Area Agency on Aging is a national nonprofit dedicated to helping older adults remain in the home living independently, but also helping their family caregivers and also helping adults with disability to really remain living in the home independently, but also to connect them with services. So we are part of a national group, but within Michigan, we have 16 agencies to be able to service the state. 1B, which is our indicator at the end of our name, services 6 counties. And those 6 counties include Livingston, Macomb, Monroe, Oakland, St. Clair, and Washtenaw counties. So if you live in one of those areas and are listening, you would give us a call to be able to be connected with resources that really run the gamut as far as anything an older adult over 60 would need, or if you're a family caregiver caring for someone that's older, or if you're 18 and if you're 18 with a disability. So we're able to offer services that include, but are not limited to, home care, Meals on Wheels, transportation assistance, health and wellness classes, referrals to housing, assistant living, adult day centers, everything. And you can contact us by calling 800-852-7795 or by connecting with us on our website at aaa1b.org. If you happen to live outside of these 6 counties that you see, again, we are a national network. We can connect you with your local agency. Just want to give a quick shout out to our 2 sister organizations within Southeast Michigan, Detroit Area Agency on Aging, which covers Detroit and some surrounding suburbs that have a 313 area code like Hamtramck, Grosse Pointe, and a few others. And then also Senior Alliance, which covers the rest of Wayne County that DAAA does not cover. So if you want to connect with any of us, you can start by giving us a call. We can refer you out. But if you live in one of these 6 counties, please give us a call and let us assist you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw to our presenters today. But before I do that, a couple housekeeping notes. We want you to engage with us. We know you'll probably have a lot of questions and things that you want answered. So we're gonna have our presentation first, but if a question comes up, we invite you to either, if you're on Zoom, to place it in the chat as you think of it, or you can hold it to the end. If you're on Facebook Live, we encourage you to place it in the comment section under the live stream. And then once our presenter gets done, we're going to take all of those questions and answers and answer them after the presentation. We also have a surprise for everyone. If you pre-registered for this webinar, you will be in a drawing to receive a $25 gift card to Amazon. And who doesn't like Amazon, right? I just ordered some random Amway cookies that I couldn't find in the store, and I found them on Amazon and ordered them, and they were at my apartment the next day. So we love Amazon. So we're going to give away 3 $25 gift cards to Amazon. If you pre-registered, you'll be in the drawing, and we'll announce those winners at the end. So without further ado, I want us to go ahead and get to our presentation today. So I'm going to bring up our keynotes, or actually I'm going to bring up someone who's going to introduce our keynote speaker, and she is Michelle Phelan. She was with the Alzheimer's Association Michigan chapter, and she is a program coordinator, and she's been a joy to work with to put all of this together. So now I'm going to have Michelle come on up to introduce you to our speaker today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you so much to Chiara and the Area Agency on Aging 1B for partnering with the Alzheimer's Association. We too are a nonprofit offering services to raise awareness of dementia and provide care and support to those affected. And today for our program, our speaker is Jim Manji. He is incredibly active in the dementia awareness community. He has been a community education volunteer with the association for the past several years. And he's reached hundreds of people through presenting education programs throughout communities. And he also does a lot with media outlets just to get the word out about Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. He's also the head of Dementia Friendly Saline, which aims to make Saline, Michigan a more dementia friendly community. And he created a memory cafe in his hometown as well, so people with dementia can connect. And so he does a lot with the community, but he's also an active caregiver for his wife who has Alzheimer's disease. So today, Jim will share how we can effectively communicate with those with some form of dementia, and he'll provide some great tips that he has learned throughout his 13 years. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Jim, and I'll pass it on to you.
Thanks, Michelle. Good day, everyone. And thank you all for being here. Besides being a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association, as Michelle said, for the last several years, it's now been 14 years that I've been a caregiver for my wife. She has younger onset Alzheimer's. And I want to tell you that communication between us has changed a lot during this journey, but it is still strong, even now that most of her words are gone. So today, I'm hoping everybody can see that okay there. Today, I want to give you some insight into how sending and receiving messages changes over time, especially in persons living with dementia. We'll talk about how you can adapt your communication strategies to make sure you can still connect with persons living with dementia throughout the journey. And for those of you here today whose caregiving situation maybe does not involve dementia, I assure you that you will find many of the communication ideas here useful nonetheless. I want to be sure also that we have a common understanding of terms. Dementia is the condition of losing short-term memory and some thinking abilities to the extent that it interferes with daily life. There are over 100 brain-damaging diseases and disorders that cause the condition of dementia. And Alzheimer's disease is by far the most common. There's also Lewy body disease and Parkinson's disease and frontotemporal dementia, along with several kinds of strokes that can cause dementia. And these all differ somewhat, but for the most part, they're all similar as to the communication challenges that they present. This slide makes the point that there are many more ways to communicate than just what words we speak. There's our tone, our pace, our body language, when we're talking and when we're listening. But omitted from this slide are other important ways to communicate, like touch, like art, dance, and music. We will talk about those. There are multiple ways to communicate and multiple messages. There's the objective message, the factual information. And there's the subjective the subjective messaging, attitudes, emotions, that soft stuff that a lot of us guys don't pay any attention to. But as we will see, this soft channel is increasingly important for persons living with dementia as their journey continues. Generally, there are 3 stages of dementia. Early, when persons have some problems and can use some help. Middle, when their problems require some help. And late, when their problems require full-time help. We'll talk about differences in the stages, but there are no bright lines separating them. And each one of these stages can typically last for years. Persons with dementia can communicate, and we can communicate with them in every stage, just differently as their abilities change. In general, there's less reliance on words, whether written or spoken, and more reliance on nonverbal communication as the disease continues. In any brief encounter with a person in the early stage, a visitor, a friend, even a family member not in the same household may not notice anything amiss. In the early stages, problems can be intermittent, and many people can make an effort to overcome or conceal their difficulties for as long as the visitor is there or the friendly conversation lasts. But the longer, more frequent their contact with a person with dementia, the more likely that people will notice a few things amiss. The person with dementia may seem more shy than usual, hesitant to participate in a conversation. They may struggle to find the right word more often than happens to all of us. Asked for an opinion or a choice, they may just automatically refer back to the caregiver. In the early stage, some persons are still coming to terms with the problems they're aware that they're having. They need you to connect with them, not to confront them. They need you to let them know that you'll help them, support them, respect them as you and they take on the journey together. Other persons in the early stage go swimming in the Egyptian river, denial. Some caregivers, like me, also take that plunge. Facing dementia is a difficult prospect, but no person, no caregiver needs to face it alone. I wish I'd known that years ago. There is a lot of help available. We're going to talk about that later. But for now, I want to urge caregivers who might be dabbling in denial. Please realize that your loved one needs you to be clear-headed and responsible. Opinions differ about whether the person who has dementia must themselves explicitly confront the issue. I respect that, but I'll tell you this. Some persons never understand that they have dementia. And that is not a bad thing, as long as their caregivers will make sure they are cared for throughout. Making sure you have a solid communication connection in the early stage is important for their quality of life and yours, for the likely several years duration of this early stage. It's also a foundation for the future as things get difficult. This slide has some tips. In the early stage, go ahead and ask them their preferences about helping. But no, they may say they don't need any help. Just go with the flow. Don't assume you should automatically finish their sentence. But if they are struggling for a word, see if their expression, body language is indeed asking for help. Like so many things, this takes practice. A really key idea is to kiss. Keep it short, simple, and slow. Their brain's ability to process incoming words is being damaged by the disease. So slow down, pausing after a sentence. Keep your sentences short, one idea at a time, and give them time, extra time to respond. They are not paying attention. Their brains are trying to work around the parts that are damaged. It's like detouring around streets that are littered with storm damage. Don't change topics in your conversation too often or too quickly. They won't be able to follow. With my wife, I'd be chattering away, hopping from one topic to another when she'd say something that just didn't fit, till I realized she was responding to something I'd said 2 minutes ago. In a conversation with a third person, don't exclude the person with dementia. Although you can talk faster with the other person, the person with dementia will notice the disrespect of being left out. Go ahead and make eye contact and address your conversation to them too. But don't demand a quick response. Maybe don't demand a response at all. Talk with a person with dementia, not about, especially if it involves plans for the future. They have a right to be involved in planning as long as it's possible. For example, a potentially valuable idea is to make videos in which the person with dementia talks about their likes and dislikes, foods, music, interests, hobbies, etc. Maybe do this as several videos, but do it as an informal family conversation. And then you can edit the videos later on and use them in the future to introduce this real person to other caregivers. Don't make assumptions about what they do or do not remember. And please don't say, "You must remember, I just told you that." Not necessarily. The damage to the brain means that their short-term memory module just isn't working. You might say something like, "Would you like me to go over our plans today?" And that gives them a dignified way to admit they have forgotten what you told them. When you say something like this, don't send a contrary message of impatience with your tone of voice and your body language. Even if they forget the words that you tell them, they can still sense the emotion, your disrespect, your frustration. And don't forget to laugh, not at them, but with them. Maybe laugh at yourself. I know I can always find something about myself to laugh at. Laughing together is a powerful connection. Usually, it's a gradual process, and early dementia becomes middle stage. And many of the differences are a matter of degree. They will have more difficulty finding the right word. And now they might use substitutes. In the kitchen, for example, they may refer to the hot box. They may keep repeating a word or phrase because their brain is having trouble catching up with what they're saying. So they also may try less often to say anything. They're not being rude or unresponsive. If you pay attention to them, not just listen for their words, you may learn they're telling you a lot non-verbally. Now, the note here on the bottom of this slide is that dementia causes a gradual loss of communication ability. But if you notice a sudden change, as in over a day or two, a real big change suddenly, that can be a sign of a dangerous infection, very often a urinary tract infection, a UTI, that needs professional medical attention. It can be fixed with antibiotics, but you need to consult a pro on that. Because they are having more difficulty with words, both inbound and outbound, they'll rely more on gestures and body language. They may speak to you with their eyes and their facial expressions. So look them eye to eye, one person to another. That's partly a matter of respect, but it also ensures that you are in their field of vision. Because among several other visual problems, the brain damage is narrowing their peripheral vision. For many years, I was a fuss budget who had to make sure that everything was said exactly correctly, not even the slightest inaccuracy in a story. Now, as a reformed fuss budget, I ask you, please, avoid that urge to correct, contradict, confront, control. Except when it's truly a safety issue, it's okay that the person with dementia said something inaccurate. They don't need to learn to get things right. Be calm. Be cool. It's not a contest. It's a connection. person to person. And making this connection will take more time and practice. Just keep at it. This slide says a good way to connect. Whoops. Yeah, that's what it does say. I'm sorry. A good way to connect is to join the person's reality. If there's any scientists or engineers or journalists in the audience, you just went on alert. You want to say things are either real or they're not. I'm a scientist myself, so it took me a while to grasp that the damage dementia does to the brain distorts memory and time and visual spatial perceptions and other senses too. So the person in the middle stage of dementia is often experiencing the world in a very different way than we are. We cannot really join them exactly where and how they are, but we can recognize that what we are seeing and hearing and touching is not the same as what they are perceiving or how they are understanding it all. For example, people on TV, especially on a large high definition screen, may seem just as real, just as present as the folks really standing right next to them. And after a year in which we saw each other mostly only in 2 dimensions, this confusion is a little easier for us to relate to. A person in the middle stage may be perceiving something very different from what is really there as far as you're concerned. Besides misinterpreting scenes and objects that their eyes are seeing, their brains might also create images or sounds or other sensations that are not really there. In other words, hallucinations. My wife often saw a bunch of little kids playing in the garden, and eventually I learned not to tell her they did not exist. So unless it's a safety matter or it's something upsetting, you needn't correct a person's misperception of what's there or their vision of what's not there. Go with the flow. You might even be able to capitalize on their vision of an alternative reality. Instead of you telling them how things really are, ask them if they'd like to tell you something about how they are seeing the garden or the streetscape. If it seems pleasant, you can ask, does that view make you happy? Would you care to tell me why? This can be a great way to comfortably connect and maybe launch some great conversations. This idea of making positive use of their alternative realities by asking creative questions is also found in the Time Slips storytelling program. You may want to check that out if you're not familiar with it. So in your communication efforts, pay less attention to the facts and focus more on feelings. Make sure you let them know with your words, your gestures, your tone and expression that you respect them and what they are feeling, and that you're there, right there with them. It is now even more important to keep your statements and your questions short, simple, and slow down a bit. Also, in terms of simple, try to keep it to one person speaking or helping at a time, because 2 are too confusing. The damaged brain may have difficulty processing multiple voices from multiple different directions in rapid succession. This also means that in a noisy space, they'll have more difficulty doing what you and I do effortlessly all the time, filtering out noise. I know it's not obvious on modern TVs, but every one of them has an off switch. Try also, please, to cut down on visual clutter, which is not only distracting, but it may also be a safety issue because the visual distortions that they are experiencing may make it difficult for them to navigate around lots of furniture and other obstacles. And if you're asking them questions, make it easy for them to answer. Instead of an open-ended, what would you like for lunch? Give them maybe two choices or even a presumption. Is mac and cheese okay for lunch today? Supplement your words with natural, friendly gestures. Let's go outside. But be careful about using figurative language. They may not be able to process it. It may confuse them. So try to avoid saying something like, let's hop into the car. I once asked my wife if I could take her hand. Oh no, she said, I still need it. Avoid sudden movements. They can't process as fast as you can move. Try also to avoid negatives. Instead of, no, don't go that way, you could say it more positively as, it would be better if you came this way. This final slide on middle stage, again, points out that while facts do matter, for persons with dementia, you're acknowledging and respecting their feelings, and you're giving them love and respect may be far more important. And this becomes more true in the late stage. Entering late stage is not an event, but a months-long transitional process as abilities continue gradually deteriorating. The key aspects are that persons in the late stage need time help, and they have, at the same time, much less ability to express themselves accurately with words. That also means that at some point during this years-long late stage, the solo, I can do it myself caregiver, like I was for 11 years, you have to get help. Maybe other family members, maybe professionals to come into the home for various shifts, maybe transitioning the person to a long-term care facility. So there will now be other people who need to communicate with the person with dementia. And you, as the caregiver who knows that person best, can help these newcomers learn the best ways to communicate specifically with your loved one. Now, if you made some videos earlier on, you could edit them to focus on the person with dementia, and you can use the video to show the new caregiver, let them see and hear and get to know your loved one as the person they are, who can now no longer express themselves as clearly. In the late stage, a person has less ability to speak and perhaps great difficulty forming any complete logical sentences. Although at any given moment, they may come out with something perfectly clear and meaningful, like, I love you. They may be unable to say much in the way of meaningful sentences, but they will still express themselves with facial expressions and body language So pay attention to what they are non-verbally telling you. You needn't stop talking to them. Keep it slow and simple because they are still listening. They're still taking in a lot and understanding it. When they don't respond to you, please realize they are not ignoring you. They, the person that you are caring for, are very much still there. They're merely unable to respond with words. That they're still there, I learned a few years ago. I was sitting in the memory center, the living room, with my wife, and there were several other residents, and most of them had not spoken 5 words in the last year. There was a nature documentary on the TV, and the narrator was very seriously intoning, the dominant male caribou hurries around the field, quickly mating with as many females as possible. At which my wife says loudly, "What a pig." And another resident says, "You said it." And every other resident in the room was grinning from ear to ear. They're losing every day, they're losing more abilities. But they will always be persons deserving your respect. And now more than ever, they need you to use your words, your tone, and your demeanor to send them the message that you respect them as the persons they will always be. Never stop letting them know you care and that you will make sure they are safe. You can tell them that with words, but it's now increasingly important to reach them also through other senses. All during a person's journey with dementia, and definitely far, far into the late stage, they can enjoy other forms of communication. Things like touch. The touch of your hand on their hand, their arm, their back can be very meaningful. Do what's appropriate, but be sure to be gentle with a light touch. Like most older folks, they may have thin skin. They may have less padding under the skin. So they may be more sensitive to pressure. Also, if you're touching, be alert to signs of pain. Is there a bruise or a sore or some other source of pain they can't otherwise tell you about? Now, this slide has just a few of the many ideas of providing things to touch. For example, there's lots of different textures among fabrics, providing samples of silk, wool, knits, denim, corduroy, whatever, may be enjoyable in itself, but also a springboard for communication, for talking about memories that each one might bring. Oh, Mom, doesn't that feel nice and warm? I always loved it when you used to bundle me up for school with a heavy wool scarf just like this. But don't put them on the spot with, "Don't you remember?" Just toss out ideas and thoughts, and some of them are likely to spark, if not an actual memory for them, at least a good feeling. Other things to touch are different flowers or pieces of wood or different rocks and minerals and so on, especially things that link to the person's history and preferences and likes. Go ahead and be creative about selecting and using items, but be sure not to give persons small objects that they might get confused about and try to eat. Eyesight, their eyesight is still likely fine, although their ability to interpret what they're seeing is diminished or distorted. So try old family photos. That might work really well. But again, don't stress your loved one by insisting, oh, you must remember that trip to Wisconsin Dells. Try also larger scale, brightly colored images, like a nature documentary on TV, although not necessarily one involving horny caribou. Even better, you might try real birds and wildlife, out the window or outdoors. Also, large format, coffee table books with lots of, color photos in them can be really fascinating. I buy used ones like this, a buck a pop from the Friends of the Library or the Salvation Army. And my wife can spend all afternoon browsing the pages of the beautiful Southwest Desert or some such. I can entertain her if I'm around there with stories about traveling and working in the desert, but usually she's just content to look at the pictures, regardless of what she thinks they are. She also likes to endlessly look at, this will work, endlessly look at big picture cards of different people, different situations, different objects, foods. Amazon, which Chiara mentioned before, and maybe you'll get a $25 gift certificate. Amazon has lots of sets of kids' picture cards for learning. The sound of your calm, reassuring, loving voice is always important. And how it sounds is probably just as important as what words you're saying. But aside from that, think creatively about what they have liked to hear. My wife likes poetry, whether I read it to her or put on a CD. She prefers simpler poems with a good, strong meter. Many folks enjoy hearing passages from the Bible or other sacred books, and they might surprise you, be able to recite along, or perhaps sing a hymn that they learned a long time ago. And certainly, don't overlook music. One of the last parts of the brain to be damaged is the music module. A person who can no longer walk or talk will still enjoy a concert or a playlist. They will still move to and be moved by music, especially the favorite music of their youth. Maybe they'll hum, they'll sing along, hey, join in. My wife always gets moving, even in her wheelchair, to Motown, especially the one that goes RESPECT. Movement to music, that is dance, ballet especially, with its slow, exaggerated, flowing movements, can be very enjoyable for them to watch. And if you want to see the effect, just Google ballerina and Alzheimer's to see what happens when a former ballerina now living with dementia hears Swan Lake. Aromas can be very evocative. Perhaps cinnamon will bring a smile, especially if you talk about baking cinnamon rolls together or some such. However, the part of the brain that handles smell can be damaged. So you might find that a given person can no longer smell some really nice things like lavender or pineapple. Give them a try, but don't be surprised if there's no reaction. Because taste is linked to smell, there can also be losses in regard to taste. But again, try using favorite tastes, favorite foods to make a pleasant connection. All over the world, sharing food is an important way to connect with people. Another but, as the late stage continues, people's ability to chew and swallow may become compromised, so be careful, and perhaps confer with the professionals who may be helping to take care of the person. So throughout the journey, it is not only possible, but essential to maintain communication between the person with dementia and the caregiver. It needs to adapt to their changing abilities, relying as time goes on more on the senses and feelings than on words and intellect. But at every point, you can show your respect for the one thing they will lose until the last breath, their humanity. And of course, caregivers are humans too. So please be sure to take care of yourself properly so that you can continue to take care of your loved one. Caregiving is hard and stressful, and you will need help, be it a few hours of respite while a family member or friend just sits with your loved one, or having a professional home health aide come in for a few or more shifts, or eventually it may be letting an entire team of professionals take full-time care of your loved one in a care facility. And on that note, I want to wrap up a slightly shortened form of a longer presentation with the urging, please, to check out the many, many resources available from the Alzheimer's Association. As Michelle said at the outset, I am a volunteer for the association. I'm not being paid to say this, but the association has a tremendous amount of assistance available. This slide doesn't even do it justice. A lot of different kinds of support of all sorts. In addition, of course, as was said at the outset, the Area Agency on Aging also has abundant resources of support available to you. You are not alone in your caregiving. And I hope that the information I've been able to present to you today has been somewhat useful to you. With that, I will end with an offer to answer questions that you may have. My usual procedure is that I will answer the easy questions. Michelle will answer the hard ones. So have at it, and thank you so much for your attention.
Let me unmute. Hello.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was wonderful. And just, and I'm going to bring Michelle on as well so we can do the question and answer period. But just good information in general. A lot of what you were talking about, I thought of my parents. They're older. They don't have dementia. They're good. But that was just good information about just when you're dealing with maybe older people and just in general with things that we don't think about when dealing with our older population and how we speak and how we receive things and how they may process things. So that was just good overall information. But gauging from the comments that I'm seeing in the chat and then also on our Facebook Live, it's very good information for those who are working with or caring for someone that may have dementia or Alzheimer's. This was good, pertinent information. So with that, I want to go and please pop in the chat, Jim, to get all of your accolades that I'm seeing. But we're going to go here because it's important because that was really good information. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, you might have happened to just popped in. You are with the Area Agency on Aging 1B, and we are here with our Conversations for Caregivers webinar featuring today the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan and going over information on effective communication for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat there. I'm going to go to the chat here on our Zoom for our Zoom audience. And a lot of good accolades. But the first question I see here is, will the PowerPoint be available? So we are going to send this recording out. If you pre-registered, we are taping this, so you'll get this recording to have everything at your leisure to watch again, I will ask Jim and also Michelle if they would like to include the PowerPoint, but if not, the recording will be sent out. So that was a question, is the PowerPoint available?
Hi, Chiara, this is Kathleen. We have a question from our Facebook audience.
Okay.
Dina would like to know, how would you encourage someone with dementia to feel comfortable with help coming into the home during the pandemic specifically?
Michelle may very well have some additional ideas on that, but from my own experience, I did have some folks come in to help me take care of Kathleen, and it was mainly a matter of a couple of different ideas. One, introduce the person as a friend, as a new friend. Talking about that, and most of the caregivers will behave as if they were friends. Maybe newfound acquaintances, and talk about friends. And I'll tell you that the very first time that I brought somebody in or let someone come in, yeah, I was worried. Gee, my wife's going to be really nervous about this. Boy, it took about 30 seconds or so, and they just hit it off perfectly well. So I would encourage a person who is reluctant, whether it's a caregiver or the person living with dementia themselves, give it a try. Give it a try. Talk in terms of friends, having a good time. Talk about, you're going to watch a movie together, or you're going to do something together. You're going to listen to some music together, whatever. But talk about it not so much as a custodial situation, but as a friendly opportunity. I hope that helps.
Well, one side note, Jim, she says her dad's at the beginning stages of dementia. So any suggestions specific to someone who's at the beginning stages?
You needn't confront them about their condition. Just talk about, hey, in this day and age, we all can use as much human contact as we can get, as many friends as we can get. So again, cast it not because because of any of his symptoms or difficulties, just because, hey, I met this Charlie, Freddie, Sally, whatever, and I thought I'd invite them for lunch, and we get to know them. So just keep it as informal as possible. It may get more serious later on, but starting on the basis of friendship, I think would be useful.
Thank you, Jim. And we also have a question in the chat from Tara Steen. She says her mom's audiologist stated comprehension issues, but could it be symptoms of dementia?
Well, again, I'll defer to Michelle if she has something else, but I think the short answer is yes. One of the things that research is showing is that there may be some impairment, not so much in the ability of the eardrum to hear, but of the brain to properly process the sound. So there may be some hearing perception impairment as a potentially very early sign of dementia. And that's still not very well known, but clearly if there is some concern there, I would suggest look into it. It could be the beginnings of one of the dementia diseases.
Thank you. And we have another question from Facebook. How do you handle rage or anger from someone with dementia?
Well, the first time it happened, I spent the night in a hotel. Now, I don't mean to be snarfy about that. My wife was enraged the first time that I suggested that she might have some memory issues, and she threw me out of the house for the night. But that is not a good response. The best way to deal with it is to just go with the flow. I mean, if it's just someone who's getting upset, do whatever you have to. Apologize, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Do everything you can to defuse the situation. Don't get angry in response. That's the worst thing you can do. Don't get angry in response, because if there is rage involved, it is very likely because of the disease itself, which is to say they pretty much are not able to control it themselves. It's the disease. Understand it's the disease. Don't get angry. Let it roll off your back. Just go with the flow as best you can. And I know that everything I just said is a lot easier said than done when you're in the moment. I know that, I respect that, but do the best you can to not meet anger with anger.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for that. Someone said they like the suggestion of making a video that was mentioned. Is there a guideline outline to follow when beginning this project?
Well, to tell you the truth, this is, I forget whether I said this just now. This isn't my idea. This idea comes from a friend of mine who is themselves living with dementia, and they're in the early stage. And they said they sat down and made this video themselves. They sat in front of the camera and made this video. So I'm picking up on the idea, but enlarging it. And no, I've not seen it published anywhere. The idea is maybe make it a family affair where 2 or 3 of everybody's just sitting around and everybody is talking about what they like and what they dislike, and just have a long open-ended conversation, and you're taping the whole thing later on. And you can do that in 1 session or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 sessions. Keep all those videos. Later on, edit them down so that you can hand a future caregiver a more focused video. And if you don't know how to edit videos, if you have someone, 12 years old in the house, they can probably do it for you. No, it's not hard to edit videos and put them together. You can find someone to do it for you. And that's honestly, if you like the idea, that's great. I've not seen it published before.
Thank you.
I saw a question come in about paranoia.
Yes, that was the next question. How do you handle paranoia? They used an example of a caretaker was accused of stealing personal items that no one would ever use. So how do you handle paranoia?
Okay, recognize again, it's the disease. The disease is causing the paranoia, and a large part of it is because a person is losing the ability to remember where they put things. The short-term memory is going, and their spatial perception is getting messed up. So even if they, they may put it in X place thinking it is the usual place. So they get all confused. And then because of their logic problems, they're unable to retrace their steps and remember, well, I last had it at such and such, the process we all use to find things. Okay. When they can't find things, their logical conclusion, in a sense, is, well, I can't find it. I know it was here, therefore someone took it. So that's where it's coming from. Okay. How to deal with it is to respect it and say, oh, okay, Mom, I know that you're upset that you can't find your phone. Let's go and see if we can find it. And if necessary, you go ahead and apologize. Oh yeah, Mom, I misplaced, I took your phone and I put it in a different place. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you. Try to defuse the situation without confronting it, without saying, it's impossible that anybody stole your stuff. Just divert away. Then, it isn't a bad idea to just go ahead and show them before someone comes into the house. Go ahead and make a point. If there's stuff they're really sensitive about, purse or phone or keys, go ahead and make a point of safeguarding them, so that you can assure them that you're paying attention to their concerns, even though even though they are not really fact-based, but you're respecting them. I hope that helps some.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I see some responses in the chat. So I think it is. One other question, can you help the person through the evening hours, or any suggestions on the sundowners? Should they put that, any suggestions on helping that?
Yeah. try to be observant of what perhaps brings it on. Now, typically sundowning is associated with increased confusion, agitation, etc. at the end of the day. Different theories. Some people think it's actually a biological thing that the brain is getting more confused. Hormones have a daily cycle and all that. Other people think that a large part of sundowning is simply because they're tired. They're tired at the end of the day and therefore more easily confused. So pay attention to, do some observation about what your loved one's pattern is. Try to keep a regular routine in terms of sleep, which is to say, have them get a good night's sleep. Try not to have a long nap in the middle of the afternoon if that kind of discombobulates them later on. But also pay attention to simply things like at the end of the day, they're sundowning, they're agitated because they're uncomfortable because they need to go to the bathroom, or because they're dehydrated because they didn't drink enough during the day and they're uncomfortable and they can't really explain why, so they get agitated. So it takes some observational skills to figure out. You can't always prevent sundowning. Sometimes it's just going to happen and you need to go with it. But sometimes you can identify some sort of a trigger that that may contribute to making it worse. Hope that's somewhat helpful.
Thank you. And we're, just so everyone knows, we have a couple more questions that I do want to get to. We're almost at 1 o'clock, but if you guys will hang with us for a couple minutes to get your questions answered. I know Jim is good. We're good. So we don't want anyone to feel like we have to end at 1, because I do want to get to the rest of the questions. Yep. And we have some giveaways. So give us another 10 minutes. So you don't want to miss out on that gift card. So another question.
I'm not eligible for that, Chair.
You're not, Jim. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We love you. We really do. we honor you with the.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
I know. Okay, so Marcus is asking, what are strategies to be patient with the loved one, and remember to ask them what they want and how they are feeling about things? And I think you kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, but maybe.
All right. You might have to run that by again, Shara, but I think the question is strategies for maintaining patience.
Yes, with the love, exactly, pretty much. And how to ask them about what they want and how they're feeling.
Okay. I would like to tell you that in the 14 years of my journey, I always maintained perfect patience. I'd like to tell you that, but it wouldn't be true. It is difficult, especially when they're asking you the same thing over and over and over again. The best ideas are, for one, to bear in mind that it's the disease. They are not, and they didn't do anything to deserve the disease. It's not a disgrace. It's a disease. Understanding that it's the disease that's making them do these annoying things. But then there are other people that are much more proficient at this than I am. But the best you can, step back. If you can physically step back and go to the other room for a moment, that's really good. And if you can't physically do that, then at least mentally step back and just breathe deeply. Just try to center yourself and be there and realize they are not trying to annoy you. They're not trying to misbehave. So the whole discipline, if you will, of mindfulness can be very, very valuable here. And I wish I knew how to do it more better. I wish I had known how to do it more proficiently years ago. Now, how to ask people? Well, you can ask directly. And partly you can make that a conversation back and forth, make it yeah, I really like mac and cheese, but, I really don't like the way Zingerman's prepares it. Just make a conversation to elicit information rather than trying to put them on the spot. Find ways to get them to reveal information without having been interrogated, if you will. And then do the best you can, depending on your own ability to remember things, write the stuff down as soon as you can so that you can recall it and give that information to people in the future. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Jim. And we had a question on self-care recommendations for caregivers who are burnt out. And I just wanted to jump in very quickly. Again, in addition to the Alzheimer's Association, you are also with the Area Agency on Aging 1B. And we try to really offer a lot of resources and information to family caregivers. And we really do try to help those caregivers understand what it means to take care of themselves, in addition to making sure that their loved one is taken care of. So there's a couple ways you can do self-care. A couple things that we recommend, take a class. So there are tons of caregiver classes available. I know the Alzheimer's Association may offer some classes, or support groups are also good, but we offer a class called Powerful Tools for Caregivers, which is a class given by the Area Agency on Aging. It's a 6-week class. It teaches you how to be a better overall caregiver, how to care for yourself, how to have those tough conversations with family and with doctors, how to ask for help, and just to be able to kind of network and commune with other caregivers that can also offer good tips. So if Kathleen would maybe pop in the chat the link to our website that has when our classes are, because we offer that class regularly and it's free. So that's a good thing by taking a class. Also finding a support group. You can find them through us on our website or by calling our resource center at 800-852-7795, or the Alzheimer's Association. I know you also have support group specifically for someone caring for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. I know that'll be in the chat as well, but find a support group and get the support you need. Also make sure you take time for respite. Respite means care for the caregiver. If that means finding an adult day center to help to care for your loved one, we can refer you to that. If it means asking a family member who's been asking you, how can I help? How can I pitch in with mom or grandma? Take them up on it. Say, I got a couple things to do. Would you mind, filling in for me at certain times? Ask for that help, but make sure you're taking respite for you. And then do something for you every day if possible. And that could mean listening to some music, some downtime, taking, a relaxing bath, taking a walk, but do something for you daily if possible, to just help to regenerate and rejuvenate yourself so that you can be full to care for that person who needs you, so desperately just to live. Make sure that you're good so that they're good. And then also have realistic expectations and be kind to yourself. Tell yourself every day you are doing the best you can, and don't beat yourself up thinking you can always do more, you should be more. Be kind to yourself and have realistic expectations as a caregiver. So those are just a couple things, but definitely connect with us, the Area Agency on Aging, 1-800-852-7795. If you're a family caregiver in need of resources to help you with the older adult, or definitely connect with the Alzheimer's Association too. Check in the chat with the information. If you're on Facebook, we're going to place some information there for you as well. And I believe we got to all the questions. I'm just doing a double check here. One other question. Mom regularly wants to cancel her caregiver. I don't cancel, but it creates frustration. I think that was just kind of a comment, but any suggestions on that? If mom doesn't want to, or person doesn't want their actual caregiver, they want their family member they're used to?
Well, that is a difficult situation. If there's a particular conflict between the person and the caregiver, you might discuss, if you're working through an agency, you might discuss that, maybe a different person, because so much of this caregiving is trial and error. And you're right, Chiara, your course is great in educating caregivers, but nonetheless, 24/7, there's a great deal of trial and error. You got to just keep trying all sorts of things. And it's okay if something doesn't work. Try a different way to do it. Try a different caregiver, perhaps, that might help. There's nothing guaranteed that will always work, but I just encourage people, just keep trying.
Thank you. And I think with that, we are going to wrap everything up. before we get out of here, we do have winners. So we made you wait long enough. So again, thank you so much for taking time out on this beautiful Friday. It's officially spring in Detroit, Metro Detroit, and I know we're all happy about it. But thank you for taking some time with us today for this very important topic. And we're just so happy. We hope the information was beneficial. It's looking like it was. And we're going to send out information after today. So even if you couldn't make it, we're going to send out anybody that pre-registered. You're going to get some good information from us and Alzheimer's Association, some resources and tools to take with you and to keep this presentation and some other things. But our 3 winners today of a $25 gift card to Amazon, and thank you for registering and thank you for hanging with us to the end. We have Miss Tammy Shire. So Tammy, I believe you're still on with us. We have Terestine Simmons. And our last winner is Miss Lisa May, if I'm saying that correctly. So Tammy, Terestine, and Lisa, please put in the chat if you're with us, or raise your hand, make some noise, give some virtual spirit fingers, and you will receive a $25 gift card to Amazon sent right to the email that you registered on. And we thank you so much for participating. Any last words, Jim or Michelle?
I have enjoyed sharing this time with you. I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to share some ideas with folks, and thank you, everybody out there, for being here today. I hope this has been helpful, and as has been said, there's lots of sources of additional information, and I really encourage you to take full advantage of the resources of the Alzheimer's Association, of the Area Agency on Aging, because no one needs to deal with dementia alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Again, Area Agency on Aging 1B. This is, ending our webinar series, but stay tuned. We have a fun event coming up that we're going to connect you all with. Join us in June. This is going to be breaking news across the Zoom and the Facebook. We're going to be hosting a Something Fun for Caregivers event, virtual event on June 4th. Information is coming soon, but save the date. June 4th, I believe, that first Thursday in June, we're going to be hosting our next webinar, which is going to be all about something fun for family caregivers. So again, thank you so much. Connect with Area Agency on Aging 1B, 800-852-7795. Our resource center, also online at aaa1b.org. Tons of good resources and information for family caregivers, seniors 60 and older, and adults with disability. Until next time, we wish you guys a great day. Thank you so much, and be well, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.